A shocking incident at the supermarket. I am a stay-at-home mom to our 3, 7 and 10-year-old children, while my husband works for a tech firm. Twice a week at the very least, I hit the grocery store. Most of the time it's the King Colon by our house, but I also occasionally hit the Target in the area. There aren't many food stores in our little town, but those are the only two. I come from an Italian family and am 40 years old right now, just so you know. At the age of 39, this occurred less than a year ago. I went to the store later than usual one day because I was behind on my shopping. Rushing up to the store with my coupons and flyers, I made a beeline for the King Colon bias, as it shuts at 10 and it was clearly beyond 9 now. The children were griping about how there wasn't enough food in the house, so I made a hasty trip to the grocery store. It was usually late when my husband got home from work, so I had to take my 3-year-old daughter Haley shopping. Going shopping by myself is a rare treat, but I was able to enjoy it this time. I arrived at the King Colon, which was unusually empty for this time of day due to its impending closure. In a flash, I snatched a cart and began racing around the aisles, buying everything on my list and more that happened to be on sale. A sudden tap on my shoulder startled me as I was in the cereal aisle. As I turned, I noticed a tall, tanned man wearing jeans, a red zipper-up sweatshirt, a black OT, a baseball cap, and my height. He questioned where I got the chips from my cart, and then apologized for frightening me by saying he had been searching everywhere for a certain bag. After I kind of pointed out the aisle to him, he apologized and claimed he looked but couldn't locate it. Consequently, I showed him just where the chips were. After a little digression into meaningless small talk, he thanked me and interrupted with, "Gosh, you're pretty." I returned the gesture and attempted to return to my shopping, but he persisted in following me and continuing to speak. With grace, I informed him that all I wanted was to go shopping alone. Even though he appeared to get the point and left, I couldn't help but notice the man circling the aisles throughout my whole stay at the store that evening. As I neared completion and made my way to the checkout, he materialized directly behind me in line, further adding to my growing discomfort. I disregarded his wish for a good night as I emptied my trolley. As I was getting out of my car at home, I caught sight of the man in the red hoodie in the parking lot. He was staring at me as he made his way to his car. As I sped away, I noticed he had hopped into a beat-up Honda and was hot on my trail. The fact that a weirdo like him knows my address makes me feel uneasy, even though my husband drove him away as soon as we returned home. I worked at Wallbounds while I was a college student. Even though I was 20 years old and a college student, I sometimes found myself doing the overnight shift at the 24-hour one where I worked. I noticed that my appointment was set for Tuesday night at 12 a.m. one day until 8 in the morning. I spoke with my supervisor as to why it made me feel nauseous. "I don't really have a choice," he told me. "Once I'm over 18, I swallowed it up and didn't quit, even though I needed the job." At 12 o'clock, I took Amanda's place at the store. By this hour, half of the store's lights had been turned out in an effort to conserve power. When I arrived, there were a surprising number of clients. Nevertheless, by 1 a.m., the establishment was deserted. As boring as can be at 2 in the morning, I was absolutely content. I was wondering whether anybody else from the building was working. Every few minutes, a bald man who appeared to be a manager would pass the front registers. He sported a little bag resembling a backpack and a key ring affixed to his khakis, which held what seemed like 10 keys. Upon my inquiry, he verified his status as the manager. While he kept an eye on the front, he sent me to sort the pallets in the back warehouse. Coming around the corner, I noticed him making a motion toward the front door, as if he were going to lock it. While I was describing the first man to rob, another manager I met in the warehouse, he appeared perplexed. Before we could even leave the warehouse, the lights went out. Rob went to see what was happening, and we found out that the guy had shut himself in and turned off the electricity. He was seen doing suspicious laps around the store in the surveillance footage. After that, I was never a fan of working overnights. Great American Nighttime Restock. Great American, a supermarket in a fairly rural town, was where I once worked as a night restocker, Restocking and organizing the shelves would be my job from 10 p.m. until 3 a.m. Typically, I would collaborate with Terry Carter or Alfonso, and I was the only one with the store key for after hours. Terry and I were meant to collaborate tonight. Upon reaching the business, I gained access to the rear room, which contained all of the items. I went to the back room to get our stuff after starting to work, but then realized Terry wasn't there. I saw that the rear door was closed, but Terry wasn't there. Terry informed me he was too sick to come in that night when I called him. I felt shivers all of a sudden. He said the door stopper could have undone itself when I informed him someone kicked it off. It failed to persuade me. I yelled out once more, and as I peered down an aisle, a man in black crossed the store's threshold from the other side. Just as I was about to approach, he vanished behind the bookcases. I stepped outside and dialed 911. The man, who was licking his lips and smiling the whole time, was detained. I can't shake the terrifying grin. Without stating the obvious, I never again left any doors open while I was working.